So this is the first video I'm making after Joe Rogan, Jack Dorsey, and all that stuff, and I'm probably not going to talk about any of that because I'm going on Dave Rubin's show later today. Today I want to talk about the Captain Marvel reviews, which are out, and I want to highlight specifically that there are people on the left, feminist and left-wing publications, that didn't like the movie either. So there's a really interesting phenomenon you see then. First, we're looking here at Metacritic. Captain Marvel has a 66 on Metascore. This takes the aggregate of all of the direct ratings given by all these different organizations. It is majority positive, going down, I guess around 60 is when they start calling it, yellow instead of green. But it looks like for the most part, it's a tepid movie. Some people really like it. A lot of people don't. We can see at the top, positive is 24, mixed is 14, negative is 1. Now I want to point some things out. I'm not going to take The Verge's word for it, right? The Verge is considered a far-left, identitarian, publication for the most part. They've published fake news. The Los Angeles Times, however, is more reputable, and they've given it a 90. They like it. But something interesting happens. For the most part, we can see that Sun Times, The Wrap, Variety, LA Times, Rolling Stone, Total Film, Telegraph, Empire, Chronicle, Tribune, Entertainment Weekly, these are not cultural outlets. So here's what I think is important before we start looking at how Slate, for instance, is saying it's a good thing the movie was mediocre or bad. It's important to point out that non-culture war outlets are like, this is a great movie. It's great. Which actually I would trust more so than either the left or the right. So when we go down, we can see that the New York Post just blasted this movie. They hate it. The New York Post is more conservative. But then it is fair to point out Time, IndieWire, The Hollywood Reporter, AV Club, Washington Post also gave it bad reviews too. So even when you remove organizations that we know lean left, they still give it bad reviews. A 60 is not a good review. Now, I do want to point out Thor: The Dark World's Metacritic score is a 54. Users gave it a 7.2. So, in my opinion, I thought The Dark World was fine. I'm not sure why people hated it so much. I don't think it's my favorite movie. But more to the point, what are we seeing from Slate? Finally, women have their own mediocre Marvel movie. Captain Marvel is just as formulaic as countless other superhero films. That's a triumph. No. And it's there's a clip I watched of the movie where Nick Fury is fighting fighting Talos. It was cool when Nick Fury was kind of fighting him, but man, it just looked so hokey. I think I want to point something out too, because I didn't see the movie, and so I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. A 66 is not really bad. It's not good. It's just it's fair to point out it's a mediocre film. But I think you have an issue of Samuel Jackson being really, he's a pretty old guy. So they're trying to get him to do these action scenes like he's a young man, and it just feels like, in some instances, he doesn't have that energy. And then you have Brie Larson, for whatever reason, it also felt really hokey, like I think she was miscast. And there's a bunch of people I would prefer, like, I'm always going to defer to Wonder Woman because Gal Gadot did a really, really good job with everything she did. But let's see why it's good. It's a triumph that the movie was mediocre and formulaic. Just before she won the Best Actress Oscar for Room in 2016, Brie Larson made a point of hugging each and every one of the sexual abuse survivors who had been brought on stage during a performance of a Lady Gaga song about the prevalence of assault on college campuses. Only a few months later, at the same San Diego Comic-Con, where the Black Panther cast was introduced, Larson was announced as the new Captain Marvel, the first female superhero to lead her own film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the time since, Larson has continued to use her public platform to advocate for issues from income inequality in the entertainment industry to the Time's Up movement. Wow, I didn't realize that she was trying to get men paid more in the modeling industry. Really interesting how that works. She's also been vocal on the press tour for Captain Marvel about wanting to increase the racial and gender diversity of the panels of the critics she sits down with. And to be fair, there was the first statement where she said she didn't want her tour to be overwhelmingly white and male, which was seen as negative. She later came back and said she just means she wants to bring more people to the table. And I think, it's important to point that out because obviously Slate's going to tell you she's just trying to be inclusive. You're going to get people on the right or, anti-social justice, whatever, are going to say she hates white men. I think it's fair to point out that she came back with an updated statement. Take it for what it is. You can have your own opinion on that, but pointing out both things she said would be important. So the point I'm saying is, increase racial and gender diversity. You could also frame it as she wanted to remove white men, right? She clarified, but we'll move on. Larson's earnest, politically tinged approach to movie stardom has earned her mockery from some quarters. Is she really trying to frame playing a superhero in a $152 million franchise blockbuster as an activist choice? Okay, well, let's get to the point. They spoil a bunch of the movie, blah, blah, blah. It's less than 2 months until Carol Danvers will be back in theaters in Avengers Endgame, an all-star Marvel mega movie that will settle the fates of our current crew of Super Friends. This is really generic, and I don't even think I want to read it. Okay, look, we get it. This is a really bland article that somebody wrote. No, I'm not trying to be a dick, but so I guess there's our statement, our official statement. But this is also important, too, is that Vox wrote this story. Captain Marvel deserves a better movie. Captain Marvel plays it safe when it could have been something fearless and bold. Okay, what were the criticisms? What was the first criticism of Captain Marvel? When the first trailer came out, people criticized her for having a blank, expressionless face, which she does. And it's also true that other Marvel characters do as well. And I'm not going to say, look, when the trailer first came out, I'm not going to point. I wanted to reserve judgment for the most part because I'm like, guys, listen. They show all these scenes where she's very emotionless, even flying in the plane. It's like, where's the grit? Where's the grin? But there's a company that edits that trailer, and it might not be Brie Larson's fault. She won an award. She's been in a ton of movies. I'm pretty sure she knows how to act. Unfortunately, it looks like from left to right, and even some mainstream sources are saying she was rigid, boring, and had no personality. So, when we go here to Metacritic, we can look at the worst, New York Post. What's said to be Marvel's most powerful superhero ever is served melatonin by Larson. There is precious little texture or detail, ups and downs, or emotions of any kind in her performance. The character, even when kicking ass, is a total bore. And it's... Look at this. Time. This is really important, okay? You can point the finger at the New York Post and say they're conservative, but you can't point the finger at Vox and Slate saying it's a boring movie. I think you're going to get a lot of access journalism, which is disconcerting, But when you look at USA Today, Vanity Fair, they like the movie, right? It's a 66. So I think, I'll say this right now. It's looking like I am not going to go see it following opening weekend because of it. I'm willing to trust Variety, LA Times, and these more mainstream publications to an extent. But in terms of whether or not it was handled appropriately, maybe I will see it, but I'm leaning towards no. You have mainstream outlets calling it boring. From The Guardian, like if The Guardian's going to say it's boring, I'm kind of like, But more importantly, IndieWire, Hollywood Reporter, AV Club, Washington Post, Time. If you've got more mainstream saying it's bad, then I'm going to combine the left saying it's bad, the right saying it's bad, and the mainstream publication saying it's bad. And in my opinion, that's going to outweigh the few mainstream outlets who are trying to convince me that it's good. More important. So what is this? I got to open up the actual article from Time. So in the Time article, they called the movie boring. Brie Larson makes a fine Captain Marvel, but what does it accomplish? Is anyone else getting tired of role models? I don't mean real-life people who are doing estimable work every day, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but virtuous fictional women who are put up before us as jaunty reminder that girls can do anything. Girls can do anything, and like all children, young girls can have moments of self-doubt, time when they need reassurance. And there's no reason why it shouldn't. A lot of these reviews are so... Ugh. I want to point one important thing out, too. Telling my friends... To my female friends, I was like, you really need to go see this movie for one reason. First of all, it is a strong woman, okay, female lead, but more importantly, when she fights, they play the song Just a Girl by No Doubt. And you know what the response from my friends is? Cringe. It is such an obvious trope, it's not funny, it's cringe to have Captain Marvel fighting villains, and you play I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt. Oh my God. Here's what I want to see. Actually, no. Yeah, I know what I want to see. Wonder Woman. I saw it. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's actually in my top favorite superhero movies, and I want to stress this point because you have Chris Pine, the realist, and Gal Gadot, the idealist, and their ideas are conflicting. I'm like, wow, they did a really good job. And you can see the nature of patriarchal realism, maternal idealism. Wonder Woman was a demigod. He was the soldier. He sacrificed everything. She fought, Wonder Woman was great. And it was a female director, and it was a female lead. That's how you hit the nail on the head with the hammer. It's looking right now like Captain Marvel is a boring, mediocre film that doesn't accomplish anything for anybody, that even Time is saying it's boring, the New York Post is saying it's boring, numerous other mainstream outlets are saying it's boring. So what am I supposed to conclude? I will say this. When we look at Thor the Dark World, let me pull up Thor the Dark World. The audience liked it. So this is going to be really, really important because I thought Thor the Dark World was fine. I wouldn't give it a 7.2. I wouldn't give it a 5.4, right? I'd give it maybe like a 6.5. And what that says to me is, if the Metascore is really low for Thor the Dark World, everyone hated it, and the Metascore is higher for Captain Marvel, giving it generally favorable reviews, I'm leaning more towards it's probably worth seeing, but I am going to wait until after opening weekend to see how the audience reacts. I fully understand this is a culture war film, and you are going to get a ton of people who are going to hate the movie regardless because Brie Larson is, she's considered condescending and nasty. But I'm going to, it's looking like I might go see it, but I'm leaning towards maybe no. So I'm really still in the middle, I guess. I don't know what to say. If the critics hated Thor the Dark World, then I'm pretty sure I would likely enjoy Captain Marvel. But I just don't know yet. And so the reviews are coming in. The movie previews are tomorrow, which means starting tomorrow you can actually go to theaters and see it. And then we're going to start getting in audience reviews. And based on that, we'll move forward. Final thought to wrap up this pointless video talking about reviews is the far left outlets don't like it. Some mainstream outlets don't like it. The right wing, I don't want to say far right because I'm not going to go to the far right sides, but like New York Post conservative, they don't like it. And then you have a selection of, actually we'll do this. We only have 15 mixed to negative and 24 positive, so it leans positive. That's a good sign. But I want to see how the audience reacts. I want to see the videos, and I want to see people highlighting things they thought the movie was bad, because I'll say it for the millionth time, I do not want to be the Last Jedi again. Sitting in that theater was painful. I'm going to leave it there. Stick around. I got more videos coming up today. Next video at 1 p.m. I will see you then.